This episode comes with a word of warning. You do not get paid just for the hours that you're teaching the classroom. It's even worse than active income. Passive income then comes around, but it might just be the difference of buying a few extra things at Christmas. It might be, welcome to Not on the Lesson Plan. This is a podcast for the movers, shakers, and misfits in education, because education isn't just one path, and I'm on a mission to help teachers understand the different steps that they can take both inside and out of the classroom to support the next generation. In this episode, we're going to be delving into a range of different passive income ideas and strategies that you can use as a teacher to hypothetically make money while you sleep. But this episode comes with a word of warning, because passive income isn't necessarily what you always think it is. The last example that I show you will be true passive income, but there's a few different things that you need to consider. So what I want to start off by doing is introducing you to this that I have behind me. This is my whiteboard full of all sorts of different ideas. And to keep the watch time higher and to keep you listening, I have covered up all of the different ideas that I have. Each one of these different placards, I suppose you'll call them, has different ideas underneath them. There's a few different ideas under each one, but they kind of fit into a theme. This is a different type of video to my 13 income ideas, side hustle ideas for teachers that I made in the past. I made that podcast, I think it's episode 3. And lots of people gave really good feedback about the different ideas, but a few people wanted me to delve into passive income ideas a little bit more. The side hustles that I shared were more active sources of income. Active sources of income being you trade your time for money. Think about being a tutor. On a one-to-one basis, you charge a certain amount, that child comes along, you might have to do a little bit of work beforehand and a little bit of work after, with billing and stuff like that. But that time that the child is in the classroom and you're teaching is what you're getting paid for, your hourly rate. You could consider that in terms of teaching too. With teaching, it's really interesting. It is an active source of income. You are trading your time for money, but you're often trading more time than what you earn as an income. I think the average teaching hours are meant to be in between the 30 to 40 hours mark, but most teachers here in the UK end up doing about 50. The Teachers Health Coach recently shared a post which was really informative. As a teacher, you should be paid about £34 an hour, but you're only getting 18. He then goes on to say that the reason this is because the average teacher earns 42,000 a year, and with 1,265 contracted hours, that should mean £34 per hour. But in reality, you work 1,000 hours more each year, racking up an average of 50.1. This cuts their hourly rate by 44%. And this is no different for leadership either. I think it's really interesting. I've obviously taught as a primary school teacher for 10 years, both 2 years in the UK, several years in Dubai, and kind of doing a little bit of both, flexibly, supply teaching, etc. now, but my wife is still a full-time teacher here in the UK. And you think about the hours that you do not get paid just for the hours that you're teaching the class. You're getting paid for the hours outside of teaching that you do at home, that you do just, out in the classroom, you're setting up, you're marking, all those different bits and pieces. And it's almost like the opposite of active income. It's even worse than active income. So passive income then comes around. It might be things that you work on during the half term, the summer, etc., so that you can work on those things and then build up additional sources of income that hopefully might not be massive, but it might just be the difference of buying a few extra things at Christmas. It might be being able to go on an extra trip a year. Those smaller things that you do each year as those different income streams come in build as well, and it can literally change your life. It has been a privilege that I feel like it's changed my life too. So what I want to do, delve into this whiteboard and talk you through some of the different things, why each one is important, and go from there. So you'll notice the big eyeballs at the top is what I've drawn, and that is because the first passive income idea that you can have is AdSense, and underneath that I've written YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, blogs, and podcasts. The idea of having eyeballs is almost the key. It is the key to unlocking more of the different ideas that I'm going to show you later on. If we think about YouTube was my baby first. It was the first social media platform that I started to kind of get me excited about content and helping people. And that was just the aim. I was helping people for free, creating videos. And although I knew that later on down the line, I might be able to make money from this, I had no intention to start off with because, yeah, it's just one of those things where you making videos, and I had to make videos for several years until I started to receive any form of income come through. And that's always something worth noting, is that these things take a long time. So in terms of your ability to make money from AdSense, it's definitely possible, but not your strongest source of income. And the best thing to do is to use this as the backbone of other things. So with YouTube, you have to get 1,000 subscribers, and I think it's 1,000 watch hours. So that is the amount, because 1,000 watch hours, that's the amount of time that people watch your videos. Some channels find it easier to get to that 1,000 subscribers based on one big YouTube videos. Others find it easier to get to the 1,000 watch hours. The most important thing is being consistent on these platforms, making sure that you're creating content each week, because it creates that snowball effect. And that is what ultimately leads to making money. TikTok and Facebook. So TikTok, you can make money from TikTok videos, those short videos. Again, you have to have certain criteria. I think you have to have 10,000 followers and a certain amount of views, 100,000 views in the last 30 days. And you also need to be 18 years old. There's a process that you go through. Once you've reached out, TikTok lets you know. I said in my first podcast that I have a bit of a gripe with TikTok because I made loads of different videos on there. I've had millions of views. Whether they all would have qualified, it doesn't matter. So the videos to qualify for income need to be over a minute long. I have lots and lots of TikTok views, and I've only just started getting paid since moving back to the UK because you couldn't get TikTok monetization while you were in Dubai. I do, however, have fancy coasters. So there's that, I guess. Facebook is, again, an interesting one. To reach Facebook monetization, you need to have 5,000 followers on profile. It's 10,000 on a page. So most people will have a page. So you need 10,000 followers and a certain amount of total video minutes. Now, video versus pictures is such an interesting one. It's just really recently changed. So Facebook has started doing almost like a content monetization strategy, where that means that any content that you create can get you an income from AdSense. And the reason I find it really interesting is because that's pictures as well, just single static pictures, and they can make you good money. Like I've seen people making really good money. I always think, what are the big pages doing on Facebook, and try to follow that. So you'll see the sidemen make interesting videos. So it might be something like, which one of the sidemen is the best at football? And obviously that then generates coins, generates news, and additional people watching that. And if you have those single posts go viral, they will gain just as much income as a video. And in some ways, then images are easier to go viral than the video. So again, something worth knowing. A lot of people are riding that wave at the moment, and images, and kind of going from there. Blogs again are a really interesting one. You as a creator on a blog, I feel like blogging was the big thing 3-4 years ago. It's a little bit harder now to make blogs score highly because you've got all the different AI tools coming along that can create almost mini blogs for you. If you search up something, it will create a blog. So it's almost making blogs obsolete unless there's a storytelling element in there. And again, blogs are a lot like YouTube. The more you build on that, the more you're able to unlock more people come to your website. Those eyeballs are really important for a range of different ways. The way you generate that is then by going through something like Google AdSense. You can get it so that you have specific ads that you're able to put on your website. But yeah, Google AdSense, you then put the specific ads on. One thing to be really important if you're a teacher looking at this for passive income ideas is you need to make sure you're filtering the different things that are on there. So if you know that children are going to come to your website, just making sure that you have the right filters on so that the Google ads that are shown on your page, on your blog, aren't inappropriate. I had someone reach out to me for brand sponsorship once, and he was like, I made this something tool, I won't name it, it's a really good tool, but it was completely free. Unfortunately, he had Google ads turned on, and the first thing that I found when I clicked on it was so many Google ads, and not all of them were appropriate. So I had to just decline that one. I think he then went and changed things, but still, it was one of those things. So just making sure that you're really aware of that when you're creating it. If you're creating content to support children, being really aware of that. But The main reason why AdSense is key is because you generate eyeballs and you almost create this bit of a funnel. The reason I think AdSense is good, and I always turn it on, is because these platforms will generate money from your free content regardless. So even if on your YouTube video, you're like, no, I'm not going to monetize, I'm not going to run any ads, YouTube's going to run them anyway. When you tap onto YouTube, on the homepage, there is going to be different ads that are shown there. You have no choice over that. So they're making the money from ads anyway, so you might as well get a small portion of that. Podcasts is almost the hardest one to get any form of AdSense from. Their thresholds are crazy. Whether it's as I continue this over and over, it gets unlocked, I'm not sure. But I think we're talking like tens of thousands of hours of consumption time. You might say, oh, well, the podcasts are longer, so it should be easier to reach. Maybe, but it's tens of thousands in 30 days. So you need 10,000 listening hours in 30 days. Like, that is a ridiculous quantity to reach. So I'm probably not going to reach that, which is why I then have my other things that I'm going to showcase. While I'm there, I'm going to do exactly what I'm about to explain in a second and advertise some of my own stuff. I don't have sponsors on this podcast. It is me, myself, and I. I do, however, create all sorts of different products to support teachers. I have a guide called EdTech Empowered, which has supported hundreds of teachers with learning different free tools that you can use inside the classroom to become more innovative and find ways to save time and excite children in lessons. I've also got resources to support teachers with the opportunities of teaching abroad. That's something I've spoken about quite a lot in depth in the past. So if you want to go and check out the free videos on this channel, do that, but also be aware that I have different guides to support teachers with the process of moving out to places like the UAE, and those have supported thousands of teachers. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the podcast. The next area that I want to focus on is something that's really interesting, and that is resources. For resources, I want to try and showcase the options and the possibilities that can happen. So to do that, I have set up a few different things already. So you have TPT is the kind of main way that people make money from passive income resources. It might be resources that have already been made in the past. It might be resources that people have just created from scratch. The thing about this, and I think one of the things that I should have said at the start of the video podcast, is passive income isn't always passive. The idea is that you'll make something and you'll make money in your sleep. And if you create the right systems to make sure that happens, in a way, yes. But if you want to increase the amount of money that you're making, you want to keep making sure that you're making additional products and also make sure that you're marketing them and pushing them out further. So if you're not doing those two things, then you can't say that you've got that passive income coming in, because otherwise the sales will start to drop. You need to make sure that you have your content machine generating views to then help you with some of this. Now, TPT, tests, and Etsy are platforms that will help push your content out. So if I search something like, I don't know, sight words practice, this resource will come up, and you can see this resource, this bundle, is something that's got 8.4 thousand reviews just on this one resource, which is absolutely crazy. Is that 8.4 thousand reviews on this creator? Maybe. No, this creator has 217,000 reviews on an average of 5 stars. So this one resource has 8.4 thousand reviews. Now, I like to think that every review, for every one person that reviews, about 10 people buy it. I'll show you some statistics as to where I get that from. TPT is a little bit less. So for every person that reviews it, it's normally about 2 to 3. So let's even just go generous and say that double the amount of reviews have bought this guide. So if we go 8.4, let's go 8.5 thousand reviews, double it, 17,000 times by 5. Let's do exact 6.31. Oh my gosh. In theory, this one resource has generated someone $100 and something thousand. Now, certain things to remember about these platforms. TPT is going to take away a large amount of money from fees because they essentially advertise your products to people. I wouldn't have seen this resource without going on TPT, but you can just gain a general idea. This resource here has got 4.9. It's got 10,000 reviews. So based on that, that's $80,000 that this person's created. I feel like it's always easy to go, wow, these people are creating, this is probably their full-time job. And this one person might have other people supporting with creating those resources. As a teacher, I looked at this and I go, that's very different to how we kind of do things in the UK, but TPT is very popular in the US. And as you can see, people download it. What happens is, I think when you review things, you get a certain amount of credit back, and then you can go and buy other things. And the people that buy things are often the people that create things. So it's almost like this cyclical economy. But yeah, I thought I'd just show you this because it kind of showcases what's possible. In theory, this person would be making money while they sleep from this resource. And if I tap into that person that I just said about with the 210,000 reviews overall, they're going to have all sorts of additional bundles. Now, as a teacher, I find it interesting having bundles because there's been times in the past, it's normally the additional things, the things that I think are a bit outside of my reach. Obviously, my maths, my English, my science, that's going to be part of my normal planning. But when somebody turns around and says, right, we need you to do a play of some sort, we need morning starters, we need additional interventions, those are the things that often are the bits and pieces that I'm doing at night, outside of the classroom hours, outside of the PPA. Those are those extra things that take up that time. So if I can find appropriate resources that can help with that, sometimes spending, what's $8 going to be about £6, £6, that's worth my hour, because it would have taken me 3-4 hours to generate and create to not as high a quality. So I can absolutely see why that market is there. But yeah, this is absolutely crazy. When you look, 210,000 reviews at, say, an average price, 210,000 views, an average price of $5 is going to be $1 million. Really? I'm missing a trick. In theory. It's all in theory, and obviously they would take their cut. Then we've got test resources. The test resources that we have here are from this specific, I think, company, to be honest with you. Key Stage 2 History, again, 631 reviews. Now, if you said 10 people, you've got 485,000 downloads. If you say for 1 in 10 people review, that's 6,310 people have been customers. They've got 267 uploads. 485,000 people have downloaded it at an average price of £10. So it's not an average price of £10. I've lied. There's got cheaper resources on there, but all of their resources, for the most part, are paid for resources. They do have some free stuff. They've got different bundles on there. So if we took an average cost of even just £4 with 485,000 downloads, that would be about 2 million. Again, I could be wildly out of touch with what I'm saying, but it just kind of gives you an idea. These are the most popular people that I'm kind of showcasing here. Gives you an idea of, even if you could generate 0.0001 of what they're creating, then suddenly you've bought an extra couple of Christmas presents and you've got an extra weekend away or something along those lines. But it just gives you an idea that the more you build up eyeballs on your page, the more people know, like, and trust you, the more they're going to be like, okay, you're starting to create additional resources and content as well. Etsy. I find Etsy is going to be an interesting place because it's not teacher specific. There you're going to find more thematic things. So by that, I mean your font styles. So font styles and things like that are really popular at the moment. So you see modern, boho, bulletin board lettering. They very rarely say like display lettering. It's always bulletin board lettering. This is classroom bulletin boards. You've got some eucalyptus type stuff there, but you can see the reviews next to the page. That's often for the creator, which is different to TPT. So if I tap onto this one here, see Classroom HQ, I did one earlier that actually showcases, yeah, so this resource here, this is one of the bulletin board boho classroom. And again, this is a bit more of a realistic point of view of one of the resources. So in the last 12 months, they've generated $212. Again, not leave teaching money, but it is additional presents for children or whoever at Christmas, holiday money, etc. And all time from this one resource, 492 reviews. Again, they've generated $1,300, so about £1,000 from this one resource that they've bundled and put together. So these things could be sold separately, different bits and pieces in the resource packs, or you can bundle them together. Often people bundle things together, but you might have specific resources that are incredibly popular if you take them out. If I then go on to other things, so yeah, just you can just see that there's lots of different people who are doing this, so there's obviously a reason why. So this resource here, different type of analytic, price £4.74, total sales 40. Lots of people have favorited it, and yeah, the store sales in total, they've made I think 45,000. I don't know if that's income or the actual amount of sales that they've had, because 45,000 sales would be absolutely crazy overall. But yeah, good for you. Oh, it says there 45,000 sales that this person has had overall. So if you take an average cost maybe of, let's just be £3. I don't need to do a calculator for that one. It's going to be about £150,000 this person has made. They've been on Etsy for 4 years, so divide that by 4. Gosh, I'm testing my maths here. So that's going to be $37,500 per year from Etsy. They might also have TPT stuff set up, so they're making additional money from that. And that's one thing about resources that's really cool, is you can have these resources set up on Etsy. You can have your resources set up on Teachers Pay Teachers, but you can also have your own website. If you're generating content from one of those different avenues, might also be Instagram, might also be TikTok, and then you're funneling them into your own place. The reason why you would do that is because you then don't have to pay those higher additional fees to a platform like Teachers Pay Teachers. So that's why that would be valuable. So next one. Information. This is what I do. This is the idea of, I don't really do resources, teaching resources, because it's not something I'm actually good at. I could have also added on resources Canva. Canva are always looking for people to create different pieces of content that they sell. I'm not sure if it's a passive income source or whether they pay for specific resources as they come in, but Canva could be in there. Information is really interesting. Interesting information. You've got digital products. Again, I don't want this to be another advert. I feel like I've given you enough adverts. This is a digital product that I've got in my hands because I printed it off for marketing purposes. This is my guide to get a dream job teaching in the UAE, and people can buy this as a PDF. Got lots of different links. That's why I like it as an ebook versus PDF, is because people can tap on the specific links, whether it's in the contents page, whether it's in the actual text itself, different links that take people to resources and stuff like that. It's there. And what's amazing about this is because I've created so much content on YouTube about teaching in Dubai, and I've mentioned this product because people ask different questions saying like, oh, okay, but what should my CV look like after they've watched a certain video? I've got a free video that says about how teacher interviews and stuff like that, what that might look like. But people are still like, I just want something concrete that I can just read through in prose. That's where something like this comes in. And if you're a creator creating X amount for AdSense, you'll start to notice that you get certain questions that come in. So let's say you're a behavior expert and you've got lots of different videos about that. You'll start to get thematic questions coming in, really centralized to a specific theme. But what about this? What about if a child is kind of retaliating this way and that way? And you might just go, right, I'm going to put everything together, every question that people give me and more. I'm just going to put it all into one thing, and then eventually I can go, right, I'm going to answer your question, but there's loads more information on this guide so that people have it there, because they'll see a message and they might go, oh, that's really interesting, but still be asking more questions. Whereas I feel like because I have a guide that I can direct people to, it's a lot more in-depth and people are more satisfied from actually just first asking me a question. So that's why digital products are so useful. Webinars. Now, webinars are an active source of income, because you're selling your time for the money. Where webinars are powerful is if you have your own platform, let's say something like Wix, which is what I use, and you can put your MP4 files into Wix and people can download it. Once you've done the webinar, you download that as an MP4 file and people can come back to that webinar. Now, if somebody's attended one of my webinars, not that I've done one yet, I would send that recording out just because that's part and partial. But if people aren't able to make it and they can't come to that, if they've not, if they've already signed up, then I'm going to send it out to them. But outside of that, they might just be like, oh, I want some more information about how to use this digital tool or something along those lines. You could package a webinar alongside a digital product, or you could have it separate so that you've got that webinar that is just something, right, they pay for and they download it. A lot of people say like, oh, I've created loads of courses. We'll get onto courses in a second. I've created loads of courses. And really what they've done is they've just created a really long webinar. Some people call it a masterclass. I think I've probably got into that in the past of like, maybe I'll call something a masterclass. Really, it's just a webinar. It might be an hour, it might be a couple of hours, and somebody just speaking about a specific topic. You could, in some ways, call this a webinar, passive income ideas for teachers webinar. But it's just, yeah, talking about those different things. You're talking about different bits and pieces. Some might pay, £10, depending on the topic, might be even more. And they just download it. And it's on demand. And as a result of that, if you've got the funnels correct with your AdSense, people buy that, and in the morning you wake up and someone's bought your webinar and they've been able to learn from that information that you've created. Courses then would be a bunch of different webinars put together with products and digital pieces integrated. There's different platforms that can support you with that. I think Wix does have a membership ability with it. I'm not too sure how you use it, and I do need to do a bit more information and research with that. Kajabi is a really good one for courses. However, it's really expensive. Standstore, lots of people are starting to see, lots of teachers, lots of people in general starting to use Standstore as creators, and you're able to use that. Maybe I'll put a link down in the description for something like Standstore so you can use that. But that way you're able to just have that quick link in bio. You've got your elements where you're creating your AdSense, but you're pushing people to it. And what's good is you don't have to make money. You don't have to hit certain thresholds. You don't have to have thousands and thousands of followers and hit those thresholds for AdSense if you're already making money through the information that you're selling, whether it's digital products, webinars, or courses. So if you're making the right type of content in a high CPN niche, maybe something like finance, that's what I'm talking about right now, technology, different tools, there's lots of different psychology as always. So you just think science, STEM, all those elements have a higher CPM than random generic things. Affiliate income. The reason this is at the site, you don't need AdSense resources, information for affiliate income. You can have TikTok affiliate income completely separate. You can just create a TikTok page for TikTok shop. Lots of people are doing so well just selling really random things on TikTok shop. There's a guy that I follow, or he keeps popping up at least on my TikTok, called Does It Volley. And he is a TikTok shop creator, and all he does is he takes things like an advent calendar and he says, does it volley? If it volleys, it doesn't really matter, but he's just going, right, this advent calendar, I'm going to basically boot it, does it volley? If it volleys, great. If not, also great, because you're still going to buy it. And he's really transparent about it. He's in one of the videos, he said, the idea of this is, if you go to another creator and they're selling something, come back to this one, tell me about it, and I'm going to put it on my store, and you're going to buy from me, and you're going to help me buy a boat, because you're my person now. And it was like really transparent. The way that he delivered it was like, oh, okay, at least you're being honest about it. It was like, I want to make money so that I'm able to spend more on my kids for Christmas. So yeah, and just dead transparent. But you can do it in all sorts of authentic ways. If you've got a bit of an audience, you've got a topic that you're speaking about already, great. But in some ways, I feel like having a TikTok shop and just having that specific account for that is probably going to be better in the long run, because you can just sell really random things. So that's one way of making money. I have TikTok shop set up on my TikTok. I've not really pushed into it a lot. I feel like it's something that I probably should push into a little bit more, but again, it's always looking at what else I should do instead of just focusing on one thing. Other products. You can sell other people's products really well. This seems Positive Teach Company. This is something that I'm an affiliate for. So this is an example of me selling someone else's product. So I would say if you use the code, gosh, what's it now? Thomas 15, you'll get 15% off your order using the link that's in the show notes / description. They've got all sorts of different things. That's how you generate sales. It's actually authentically using things. As a teacher, you're going to be using a diary. So if you're already using something quite a lot, you can then hopefully become an affiliate, usually through an application process, and showcase that. One of the mistakes that I see people make, though, is just thinking by putting a link in bio, people are going to buy it. You actually do still need to create the content about the thing to get the clicks, because otherwise you're not going to get the money come from that affiliate source of income. People often forget that. I often forget that, and forget that I have to actually make content about that. So while affiliate income is passive, and you can have systems set up so that, I don't know, you get links and emails that are automated and stuff like that, it's not true passive, because you still have to put little bits of work in now and again to make sure that you're creating an income from it. Digital. So once this podcast is created, I'm using something called Teller to create this podcast to record on my camera, and it gets sent to the cloud and helps me with editing using AI and stuff like that. I have an affiliate code that I have set up with Teller. So that then means that if you signed up to that, I would get a kickback from that. If you're interested in being a creator yourself, you can use something like Teller, TELLA.com, and it's really good for screen recording and creating your own tutorials for creating things like webinars and courses and stuff like that. It's brilliant. It saves me so much time. But again, that's an example of me selling a digital resource that I don't necessarily have to showcase physically. So that comes with its own perks of just being able to showcase that, taking screenshots, quick flashes up on social media and bits like that. One of the best forms of affiliate income would be recurring affiliate income. Once this podcast is created, then I'll then stick it into something called Opus Clips. Opus Clips creates lots of different clips from the content, gives me a virality score and tells me how likely it is to do well. It gives me lots of options for editing, puts the captions over the top, etc. But if you then signed up to Opus Clips, I would get X amount per month recurring throughout the life of your subscription. So I think for Opus, it's like 25%, which would be a great amount. When I have done VPN affiliates in the past, so that's probably been my greatest source of affiliate income is VPNs, because when you move to Dubai, VPNs are a great source of you being able to utilize some of the things that you use at home, so different websites, without the websites just logging you out and you being locked out because you're using a different phone number to the one that you have in the UK. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, VPNs are extremely popular out in the UAE for those reasons. So as a result of that, I've said, VPNs are really useful. People will buy into that, and then I get a kickback. And VPNs, because they're a digital service, are often very generous in that first year of commission. So I've made a good amount from the commissions of VPNs in the past. But some of them will sign up as a recurring. So that means that each year that you're subscribed to that, I'll get a kickback each year. So it's always worth knowing. And how long you're signed up for, not too sure. In theory, if it's a lifetime subscription, I'll continue to get a kickback. But yeah, that's always just worth knowing, is that recurring affiliate income can often be better overall than just a one-off. Lastly is I was about to do it. Lastly is the true form of passive income. And even this one single true form of passive income still isn't a true form of passive income, because there's still bits of work that you're going to need to do. And that is money. Investing and saving. So whether it's interest, whether it's dividends that you get from the stocks that you invest in, or whether it's just the general compound interest and gain in the market that these make, you've got investments as a source of income. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. Take your advice. Make sure you speak to a financial advisor before making your choices. Just make sure, take this with a pinch of salt, because I'm not a financial advisor. I have to say those things because I'm not about to get in trouble for that. But investing is one of those really crucial things that I think not a lot of people think about. Investing is perhaps the single true form of passive income. I use a platform called Trading 212. I find it really useful. They have stocks and shares ISAs. ISAs mean that the capital gains that I get from the assets that I own are then not taxed with capital gains. I have two. I have an invest and I have a stocks and shares. So if one of them is maxed out at any point, I can then use the other one. But yeah, the stocks and shares ISA, there are limits based on UK laws and stuff like that, that you're able to invest 20,000 a year at the moment into an ISA, and then that you get that tax-free capital gains. I mean, as teachers, we're probably not going to exceed that unless you, I don't know, come into some sort of lump sum for whatever reason. But then, yeah, you can invest in all sorts of different things. You can invest in electronically tracked funds, individual stocks. I think you can invest in commodities like gold and silver and stuff like that as well. And what you invest in is completely up to you. I might talk in another video about what I invest in and have a discussion about that, but I always get a little bit sensitive about talking in those regards. I'll leave a link to Trading 212 in the show notes too, in case you want to go and check that out. And I think it will give you and I a free stock of some sort. So that would be good. Saving then is the other one. You've got saving interests. If you're then just saving in a savings ISA, you would then get interest. Always try to make sure the interest that you get is as high as possible. Don't necessarily be afraid to switch as well if that means that you're going to get a higher interest. You want your money to be working for you. You don't want it to be getting eaten by inflation, because that's what happens when you just keep your money in a bank account and don't necessarily do anything with it. You want to be, yes, saving money and seeing that number go up, but you also want that number to be going up because of things like interest too. The reason why this is passive then is because you are technically just going to sleep and waking up. And in theory, if it's interest, it's growing. If it's stocks and shares, ISA, of course, things can go down, but it can also go up. So there's that. However, if you exceed certain tax thresholds and elements like that, there is paperwork, and you need to make sure that you're tracking that. With investing, you need to make sure if you've got things set up for automation, that those are set up in the first place, and that you sometimes need to go back and check and make sure that things have been timed right. So that there's always a little bit of work with everything that you do. My big key message is passive income isn't always passive income, because you often have to do additional work behind it. But hopefully this has given you a few different ideas of different things that you can do. The final thing that I want to do before I close this off is just talk about some different ideas of things that you can create about it. So I saw something really interesting by an individual on a page called Cart Mango. The individual's name was Welly Mulia, and he gave different ideas of things that you can create about. So these are resources that you could create. So worksheets, creating different things to align with different principal things. Lesson plans, so if you've already got lesson plans you could use. Workbooks, could align with worksheets. Complete curriculum packages. So that's what you saw there with the Key Stage 2 history people were sharing that. Question banks. So these are different prompts. You could create a prompt guide, thinking about AI and stuff like that. Research guides, interactive notebooks, project-based learning units. So that's really useful, project-based learning, if you teach in perhaps a bachelor IB curriculum school, but also other schools as well. You might have teacher planners, spoken about teacher planners. You can have digital planners, etc. Weekly planning sheets. Classroom labels, so these are classroom organization things. They do really well on platforms like Teachers Pay Teachers and Etsy. Supply teacher plans, so those kind of emergency lesson kits. There's been times in the past where they've said to me, you can go do supply at this place, but you're going to have to do the planning, and I've been a bit like, oh. So having something like that I could actually go to would be useful. Conference forms, parent communication templates. Not too sure about that. Maths manipulative principles, science experiment guides, history document studies, language learning activities, reading center materials. That could be a really good one, and you could utilize AI to support with generating really good reading excerpts that you could then have comprehension questions behind. In my last podcast talking about different AI tools, I showed you resources that can support with that. Reading strategy materials, writing prompts, STEM challenge cards. That's a good one. I've got a friend actually who could probably get quite a lot of support by creating those. Vocabulary card sets, art project instructions. Again, that could be something where you create a YouTube channel with those art project instructions, and then you could sell the instructions as part of the video, and with could be packages that people invest into, and loads of ideas for that. Music teaching resources, PE activity cards. And actually PE activity cards is something that's really valuable. I sometimes see lots of pages for Instagram showcasing different activities that you can do, but of course when you take the children outside to do said PE activity, you then can't take the internet with you. You can, but you can't then be stood doing PE with your phone out. But having those cards, that's what I was going to do, that's what again, yeah, really useful. Mixed ability materials, early finisher activities, special educational resources, and that's what you saw in the past. Intervention materials, again, something that I would have invested into. Extension activities for above and beyond, ELL, English language learner, behavior management charts and all those things, classroom economy systems. There was an activity that I did once called the trading game, and that was one that I was like, if he sold that, I think he'd do really well off that. Classroom decorations, printables, learning posters, digital stickers, classroom photos, classroom transformation kits. I think that bundle, that classroom transformation bundle, is something that would be really valuable, something that people can just tap onto and download it and be like, right, boom, I'm ready to go. I can get someone to help me with the cutting out, laminating, etc. Ready to go. You've got resources for assessment and evaluation, different rubrics, flashcards, etc. And I'd say really that's kind of the topical things that you can create about it. You've also got some seasonal activity packs. Again, you'll see lots of that on Teachers Pay Teachers too. There we go. Lots of different ideas that you've got there to help you get started with different passive ideas and things like that. I hope that this has helped you out. This is something that's not necessarily spoken about a lot. And if you have found this useful, make sure you leave a review. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, we're on our 5th episode now. Most podcasts finish after 10 episodes, so I'm well on track for that 10th episode. That's my target at the moment. I want to say thank you for all of the support that you've given me. This episode has come from a question that somebody asked, and I just decided to create a bespoke video episode for that. So I appreciate you reaching out with your questions, your support, and all those different things. Make sure you subscribe, follow if you're on a podcast platform, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one, because what we're doing is not on the lesson plan.